You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge, just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Joining us now is the chairman and the CEO of Colonial Metals Group, Paul Stone. Please join me in welcoming Paul Stone to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Now, folks, we've had Paul on before, but I think that it is essential now in light of this new America, in light of the Donald Trump win, in light of the fact that we may, in fact, have an optimistic future financially, that Paul join us again. But first, before we even get into that, Paul, how happy are you that Donald Trump won?
I'm extremely happy on so many levels, so many reasons.
Give me an idea. I mean, we've got
the comeback kid, the one who wouldn't stop. You know, I've always said everything you want in life lies on the other side of fear. How many fears did he run through? How many fears did he get up in the morning at 4 a.m. and continue to fight past? So many.
Yep. You know, that's a great line. You know, how many things do you want that are on the other side of fear?
Everything you want in life lies on the other side of fear. Fear is the guardian of great.
Yes, it is. And you know what's amazing, and I spoke with the president this morning, and the president-elect, I should say, this morning, and you know he is full of energy and excitement, and he said he's got so much to do, so many things to get done in the next 4 years. And he is a man who is, he's done it before, Paul Stone, promises made, promises kept. But, you know, he took America, and so many of us feared what America was becoming, men and women's sports and defunding police and all this stuff that was just, it was just incomprehensible to anyone with a normal brain. And that, you know, if you were white, you had to hate yourself, and we were colonizers, and it just went on. And after a while, you thought you were in the Twilight Zone. And all of a sudden, young people came out, blacks came out, Hispanics came out, women came out. It was an incredible victory of both the electoral and the popular vote. What do you think people were seeing in Donald Trump?
I think they were hearing more than they were seeing. They were seeing a lot, but what they were hearing, you know, I think we have, you know, in the barns of our memory, in our DNA, how did we end up, you know, here to be able to decide if we should have some, you know, sex change, right? When we were cavemen, we were fighting past so many challenges. Every day it was about thrival. It was about surviving and thriving. And the things that he said and the example that he set woke things up inside of human beings. The most magical creation ever invented. There are more neuron and connections within 1 cubic inch of your brain than there are stars in the Milky Way.
Really?
Incredible stuff the human being is. And he woke that up and got us out of human doership into human beingship. Mm-hmm. That's what I think happened. People sitting there looking at futility in their future, looking at destitution in their future, looking at confusion all around them, looking at weak leadership that causes ambiguity. You know, the one on the helm can't say, well, why don't we go north? Maybe we should go south.
Yeah.
East probably sounds good. And the whole crew is just like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Let's get out of here. And there's nowhere to go because you're on a ship. We're stuck in this country in a way. There's no new frontier to sail to. We got to make good here. And he woke things up inside humans that is, you know, tens of thousands of years old. We haven't heard that battle cry in a long time, and it resonated with the Americans.
Yeah, and it resonated across the board, you know, color, socioeconomic, ethnic. It was a huge battle cry. And, you know, so now, you know, he's got to deal with inflation and the economy. He's always said that when he gets elected, he's going to deal with Ukraine within 24 hours. And I'd like to know how that goes. By the way, Paul, have you noticed that they're running ads on television about saving the Ukraine. We need to save democracy in the Ukraine. Have you seen any of those?
I have caught a couple, yes.
What is that about? Why are they putting ads in the United States telling us we need to help save democracy in Ukraine when everybody knows, I'm sorry, and I gave money to Ukraine, so, but everybody knows they were the most corrupt country. That's why Hunter Biden was able to get Joe to say, well, you're not getting your $1 billion unless you get rid of the prosecutor on the company that my son's on. I mean, it was a corrupt country. Nobody knew about it. Now we all have to save it. What's that about?
Well, I would look one step back. You're right. And I get the feeling and the sentiment there that, you make your bed, you lie in it kind of thing. Absolutely. But if we look back to where, again, fear caused Ukraine to be suffering the troubles it suffers today, 2004, they wanted in NATO. And the Germans said no. Bush wanted them in. Connie wanted them in. And the Germans said, no, it might upset the Russians. We get all of our energy from them, and we don't want any of that trouble. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to today, they're not in NATO. They're an easy target. They're the breadbasket of Europe.
Yes.
I don't know how important it is, but 95% of the xenon gas needed to make chips comes out of Ukraine. And so we also got to look at, how we've also treated Russia over many of the years. So I don't think there was any really good attempts to try and encourage them to be a different country. It was always, you're the bad guy. Every movie we make, Top Gun, it's always against the Russians, Red Dawn, right? So we're always treating them like criminals, and they're behaving like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's not self-fulfilling. It's they're fulfilling it.
But I do believe, if America has spent, the last 100 years, or at least the last 50, 60, 70 years being the police of the planet, it's hard to pick and choose when we give and when we don't. I would also say, of course, we all know if Trump was president, there's no skirmish in Ukraine. All their apartment buildings are still standing and Russia's still inside of its box.
Yes.
But when we look at how we are going to commit resources, we need strength in Washington that commits more than enough resources for the quick, clear victory, not some drawn-out slog that just helps people make more money making more ammo.
Yep. All right, Paul Stone, stay with us. We've got a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply at lifemd.com. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications through LifeMD? LifeMD is now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
I've been able to live my normal lifestyle, and I've lost 20 pounds already. Changed my life.
I wasn't expecting it to shut off the food noise. This was life-altering, and if I can do it, I feel like anybody can do it.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to TryLifeMD.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. We are continuing our conversation with Paul Stone, who is the president and CEO of Colonial Metals Group. It's a fascinating conversation. I want to continue it here. These wars get drawn out, and the ammunition and supplies take a long time. And that really is something that creates even more trauma for everyone.
Absolutely. Are we going to live under the lash of the threat that Russia is going to send the nukes? They're not sending the nukes because we'll send the nukes. And so that's never really probably ever going to happen on the planet. It's just not, because that's a barbecue no one lives through. So we have to, that's why, 54,000 dead. Names are on a wall in Washington from the Vietnam War because they wouldn't send enough resources to get the job done. When you let these weak-kneed suits run military operations, you just get a lot of dead Americans.
I don't understand it, Paul. You know, you go to war to win a war.
Right.
We saw with Israel. Listen, what we need to do is, slow down a little. Let's have a ceasefire. Don't go to Rafah. Don't do this. Let them freaking win the war, and then it's over. Where is this mentality coming from?
I do believe, it's a natural thing. Most people see fear as a set of guardrails to keep you on the road. I see them as beacons in a dark pathway leading you to exactly the life you would want and would be proud of. Because when we all look back and in our rocking chairs on our porch at 85 years old, should we live that long, what do we have? The memories of our accomplishments.
Exactly.
Right? We don't want to have a life full of the times where we just got laid low because we never went for it.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump represents a man that has gone for it many times. You know how hard it is to build a skyscraper in New York City? You know what you have to go through to get that done?
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
This is the perfect champion for the time that we're in. But there are some things that will be one hell of a dogfight or may not be possible to change. And that's what I gently want to continue to remind Americans about. There are forces of physics that we just can't get to yield because we talk smartly from a podium.
For sure. All right. Now let's talk about, speaking smartly from a podium, let's talk about your podium, Colonial Metals. I think that now more than ever, people can say, maybe it's time. I'll be able to save a little money. The Fed chair, he reduced by a quarter of a point yesterday. Mm-hmm. And by the way, he says he's not leaving. What's the deal with him?
He's just throwing out some PR coverage in case, Trump had some issues with him before he was sent home for 4 years.
Yes.
All right. He complained about how strong the dollar was. What that means to anyone who's listening, our dollar's buying power is 3% of what it once was. When you hear strong dollar, it means it's trading higher or stronger against the euro or the pound or the Swiss franc or other currencies. So when we export stuff, it's more expensive for the receiving country to buy our goods. When they import stuff, it's super easy to afford to buy their stuff. So it hurts American jobs and it hurts our manufacturing when it's tied to exports.
Yes. All right. But what about the tariffs? What's the deal with the tariff? The president said, that he put the tariffs on China and Joe Biden kept them.
Yeah, he did. Right. I know they campaign against it because they've got to say anything that comes out of a Republican's mouth must just be ridiculous and stupid.
Yes.
So the easiest example is we have importation laws, and we're saying China can't send its drones and fleets of EV cars into flooding our economy. So they say, well, we'll have them assembled in Mexico, and then we can bypass your importation laws. So the tariff would say, we want to prohibit and protect our market, our manufacturing base, which is so diminished from what it was 50 years ago, from outside forces. And when the economists say, well, that's just going to jack the costs up for Americans, well, I think what it does is it causes the American to go, do I really need this?
Yeah.
Do I really have to have this piece of junk made in China? Do I need a new set? I mean, you walk into a Walmart, you might as well be standing in Shanghai. The ceiling tiles were made in China. Everything on the shelves was made in China. The shelves were made in China. The cash registers were probably made in China. Everything's made in China. It sickens me.
Yeah.
So that just says, okay, maybe I don't need this thing, or I'll save a little and buy the thing that was made in America that costs 30% more. It just equals the playing field. I see it as a benefit that it'll cause Americans to spend less.
Well, yeah, it is a benefit, but you've got so many people who say tariffs are wrong and it's not a good thing. To me, it levels the playing field.
You're right. And what's at the core of the argument? Their argument is based in speculation, just like Trump's speculation that the tariffs will work to protect American workers and the American economy. It's a little bit speculative. But one is based in courage, Trump's, and the others are based in fear. And fear is what leads to things like Vietnam. Fear is what leads to things like Ukraine. Fear is what leads to taking Crimea. Fear leads to confusion. Confusion leads to distraction, and distraction causes no one to really enjoy their time here. We are not even in the 20th of the happiest countries on earth. We are not even in the top 20 anymore.
You know, I got to tell you, Paul Stone, when you say that, it really is a disappointment because we are a great country. But, you know, at some point, trashing Americans, trashing the country, saying all of these things that they've been telling us for the last 8-10 years, it starts to have an impact. But I think the people, Paul Stone, are now looking up and saying, thank God Donald Trump is back. I have a chance financially to succeed. What does one do, you know, now that, you know, the government policies are going to have an impact on the economy and benefit us? How does that ultimately work for the little guy?
So when we look back at these two camps of thought, big government, right, should solve all of our problems. If it just got bigger. Well, it's 1,600% bigger today than when Reagan took office in 81.
Wow.
Okay, so that ran its course. 40 years of that didn't work. So let's get rid of this big government. But we have a financial black hole in our economy that started to form in the late 90s when the baby boomers retire. So if you had a farm, you had 10 million acres, 1 million workers, and in 1997, 300,000 of them retire. You have to build little cottages for them, and you still have to pay them so they're not eating Alpo on the sidewalks. You no longer are operating easily in the black. Yep. Our economy ceased to be profitable by 2008. That's one of the huge issues of 2008. You know, there's reports out there that banks and central banks around the world needed $29 trillion from the Federal Reserve to live through that excursion. So when you understand that we without printed money, we have no profitable or growing GDP since 2008. So when Elon Musk says, yeah, we're going to gut this government, we're going to cut $2 trillion out of its spending, that's 30% less financial oxygen flow. They spend the money here. So when we say, oh, the government's spending, they're not building ski resorts in Austria. The money is spent mostly in America, 95, 98% of it. You can look at the few billions they throw at Ukraine. That is a drop in the bucket to $7 trillion for the year. So here's an analogy. If you had to live and you lost 30% of your oxygen in the air, it would be like society living at 16,500 feet. When you are climbing to the summit in Everest, you are literally dying. There is not enough oxygen to keep you alive.
Okay.
So they need little tanks to help them get there. But so when we say down here at the ground, we have 100% oxygen. If you cut 30% of our financial oxygen coming out of the Fed, that would be like living at an altitude of 16,000 feet. We would all be struggling. So either way, a managed bust is better than one that just blows up on your face and you weren't really prepared for. But there is going to be pain. Without that money, which mostly helps support, it pools, the excess money ends up in two places. It pools in the real estate market and it pools in the stock market.
Okay. So without that money, it goes to the real estate and stock market. But what happens to wages? As inflation comes down, what happens to wages? How do we get wages up? Or won't it matter if inflation comes down?
Here's the toughie. Two things. One, since Nixon ended the gold standard, wages have drastically lagged behind the cost of living increases. Before Nixon's decision in 1971, wage growth always outpaced the cost of living. By the time you were 40, the lake cabin, kids going to college, mom still doesn't have to work, all good, right? Off the gold standard, mom has to work, no one's happy, and costs wildly exceed wages. Inflation is essentially caused when a lot of money is chasing after limited goods. If you keep printing more money, as the government has done, then you keep causing inflation. So the cause to end in true inflation is quit printing money. You quit printing money, no one has a job tomorrow. Utterly stop. No more and there's so much more fluff. You know, they say, well, the deficit's 1.8 trillion. They're printing a lot more than 1.8 trillion a year.
Yeah.
It is grotesque.
Okay, so you stop printing money, then so you're saying we have to keep printing money.
So there's a need to keep the system functioning, to keep the motherboard lit up so the economy can actually function tomorrow. Yes, because that's the financial oxygen for any economy is money. If you don't have enough money because your baby boomers retired in 97, you're going to have to print. Debt was $4 trillion in the year 2000. It's almost $36 trillion today.
Right.
So that is the proof that we have a black hole which sucks the life out of your world in the middle of our economy. It's started to form in 97. So then you say, okay, well, we just can't print this money because our currency will end up dead. We'll have to change the currency. The wealth can't transfer into the new currency. Everyone will be broke. All the banks would die. We might as well privatize the ones that we want to keep. And the government can set up boards to approve venture capital. Whoa, what kind of world is that? Not the one we want to live in. So we need to address the problem. We need to tighten our belts. And one of the great things is we stop spending money, China won't have so much money.
Yep.
And Russia won't have so much money. Consumption and demand for oil will go down. But when you upset the apple cart of profiteering, you're going to have a lot of powerful, angry people around. I say Trump is the perfect person to focus on the 350 million heartbeats in this country. 70% of them are struggling like hell under these financial circumstances, which is why they did not vote for the dreamy joy party. They voted for the party that knows how to build things. And it's happening in the Senate, and it's happening in the House. I mean, all these senators changing. When the Democrats complain, Trump just, said some magical stuff, and he won. No, there was Senate seats that flipped, and some had never had a Republican in that seat before.
Yeah.
So there is a solution. It could very well be tough. The one thing to say is if you think everything just keeps going higher now that a businessman's in charge, if they want to address the spending and get killing the dollar under control here at the last inning, then things that are inflated, eggs, coffee, wheat, the stock market, and real estate will decline. If you're heading into retirement, you say, whoa, what if I punch out of the dollar into precious metals? Well, then historically, you're freezing the value of that retirement savings because any troubles that come against financial optimism always have been positive for growth in gold and silver.
All right. So that's the key. The gold and the silver that America keeps hearing about, but America doesn't know that much about. They're uncomfortable with. They don't know what it means. They don't know if they can cash out of it or what do they hold it but when you say you can literally freeze the value of the gold or silver when the dollar is still going up and down. How does that happen?
Let's say long ago the dollar lived on the 100th floor of a skyscraper and our economy lived down on the 3rd and 4th floor.
Sounds like us.
And people say, then people say, Nixon, if we come off this gold stand, we can print a lot of money, we can push all these assets higher, and we'll flood the world with dollars. We'll be like the 5th branch of our military, and we'll outspend communism. Okay, let's do it. So you bring the dollar down to the 3rd floor. The dollar's worth 3 cents today. Mm-hmm. So you push on the left side of this skyscraper, the dollar comes down. On the right side, asset values and costs of everything goes to the 97th floor. So you say, well, what happens when the dollar hits the ground floor? Well, then everything on the top floor comes back down to meet it at 0. Oh, so what if I punch out with a parachute off the 97th floor into precious metals? Now I'm good to go. I've secured my savings. I've locked it into something that can't be destroyed, historically speaking, can't really be manipulated. It's easy to sell. The fear is all that you have to overcome to get into it. And that's why we want to have discussions with people. There are no sales in our company. There's just clients. There's just helpful hands. There's just talking it through. No, if you can't cross over that fear, then you stay where you are. But the thing that's coming up against you is a math problem that doesn't care Trump is president. Mm-hmm. Math is a language too, Judge. Mm-hmm. And it's the only one that cannot lie.
So if someone were to invest in let's say $10,000 in gold, I mean, does gold make more sense than silver? What's the difference?
Well, it's good to have a mixture of things. There's 2 other precious metals as well. They just have never really enjoyed the financial spotlight, platinum and palladium.
Ooh.
Right?
Okay.
So we just focus on gold and silver, the tried and true, the proven that's been money throughout humanity or involved with the money throughout humanity for all the thousands of years we've done commerce, except until 1971. That's what's really strange about things. It's not a technological invention in 1971 that we can just kind of have money as paper, when the paper used to represent the metals, the gold and silver and the federal vaults, right?
Right.
And so when you look at how gold behaves as a reacting to financial falsehood created out of the government's brain trust, and how silver reacts, gold reacts like sooner. Like, see, gold peaked at the end of all of our troubles at $2,000 an ounce in 2012. Now it's $2,700. But we are still in the headlines phase. We aren't yet in the events phase. So if gold is reacting to headlines and it's 35% higher than where it peaked at the end of all of the troubles, gold is screaming at you to pay attention. This recession will be worse than 2008. And silver is at 35 in the $30 neighborhood. Its old high is 50. So silver is also saying, yeah, but own more silver because I have a longer runway from here running higher in price than gold does historically. So you would want a mixture of both. A lot of folks say they want 60, 70% silver and 30, 40% gold. Some say half and half. And occasionally there's folks that just want gold or just want silver.
Okay.
They're kind of two versions of the same thing.
Okay. What's palladium?
It's another of the four precious metals. It's generally only used in industrial applications. In the physical ownership, and you will own physical gold and silver from Colonial Metals Group. Not some paper, not some certificate, not some, I hope it's there. It's there. It's there.
Yeah,
it's heavy.
Yes.
Came out of the earth. It was hard as heck to find, and it's your property. It's your financial real estate in a drawer, in a vault, in a depository.
In your Fort Knox. And where is this Fort Knox?
It's in a safe at your home. And if we do that, we always suggest have two safes in case some, undesirables come by. You can say, there it is. And they run off with the safe that hardly has anything in it because they've got to leave with something or we're getting hurt.
Yeah.
So two safes. Most people have their, the majority of their wealth in IRAs, 401ks. So those funds convert into physical gold and silver, and that's held in a depository in a state near you, or if you live in a blue state, in a red state. Right. North Dakota, Dallas, Idaho, Salt Lake City. Those are the four main popular ones.
All right. And that's where if you don't take the possession, then it stays in a secure location.
But it's yours. It's titled in your name. The depository is insured by Lloyd's of London. And I've watched all the crime stories I think that have possibly ever been produced and read the books. And there's never been a story of a depository getting looted. The stuff's heavy. It's hard to run off with a lot of it.
Yeah. It is. It is very heavy. And my friends who, I think I told you this before, Paul, my friends in the CIA said, everybody's got to have a monster box. If you don't have a monster box, you're not going to survive, which is a box of, I guess, $20,000 worth of silver. But the ones that work in foreign countries, I don't know, we haven't even discussed the issue of what happens, like if the grid goes down and you can't get your money out of a bank and all of those nightmares. And then how do you survive? How do you literally engage in a way where you can actually provide food and make.
Yeah. So there was a great movie, probably 15 years ago, about a woman who blew the whistle on a mine and how it was polluting the water or something.
Yeah.
Aaron Broderick.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Brockovich.
Brockovich, right? So Woody Harrelson at the end of the movie says, all roads end with attorneys. Right? There's one doing probate. There's one reading your will to people, right? So when we look at fiat currency, money that's called money, but it's just paper, which isn't really money. It's toilet paper with a face on it. Mm-hmm. All roads, in my opinion, all financial roads end with gold and silver.
Interesting.
And so if you say, a lot of people do this, they go right to the end of times. The grid's down, the EMPs happened, World War III occurred. Great. Then you better have had gold and silver before any of that happened because everything else is dead or struggling like mightily.
Yeah.
But the in-between, where there isn't those, nightmare scenarios occurring, gold and silver is just a bridge over another financial cliff that we historically go through. These are deeper now and longer than because of the Federal Reserve and the weak-kneed leadership out of Washington and Wall Street feeding into that, right? Print more money, print more money. It's going to be better for everything. Really, look, it won't blow up on your legacy won't have the financial world ending. So it'll be someone else's problem. Okay, great. As long as it's someone else's problem. I mean, that's just so ridiculous because there's 350 million heartbeats in this country that are trusting you aren't going to gut their country's currency to make some temporary problem go away or look better.
Yeah.
So generally, it's just a bridge over troubled times.
Yes.
Gold and silver.
What happens with gold and silver? Let's assume. I mean, are we headed toward a recession? Do you know where we are in terms?
We all know GDP, gross domestic product. If America Incorporated had a financial output, we would measure that number and go, is it more than last year? And so GDP growth means we've produced more revenue than last year. Since 2008, if we back out, so the economy was 15 trillion in 2008. Today it's 27 trillion. Debt was 10 trillion. Today it's 35 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent $25 trillion in fake money to get GDP growth from 15 to 27. So we got 12 trillion in growth.
Right.
And we spent 25 trillion to get 12 trillion in growth.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the $25 trillion out of our economy since 2008, you have a negative GDP growth number for 16 years. Judge, we would call that a depression.
Yes.
So when people say, are we going to go into we're in one. We're just cut. So it's like the global warming that's been really happening, melting everything, is in the financial world. The ice age comes and solves global warming, financial. When the ice age comes, the only thing that survives that is precious metals because it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in theory.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so negative GDP growth. Fake,
boy.
Fugazi, as Johnny Depp once said. So we got Fugazi, all roads end with attorneys. What other good quotes have we come up with today? Oh, my personal one. Everything you want in life. You want financial freedom, probably some fears involved you'll have to cross over to get there. You want career you want career accomplishment? There's going to have to be some fears you overcome to get there. You want a trophy at the end of the season? There's going to be you got to play hurt and you're going to overcome some fears to get there. Everything you want in life lies on the other side of fear. Let's look at these fears and find out. Mankind probably spends 70% of its time worrying about things that never happen.
Unbelievable.
But math problems are real, and they do happen.
Well, I'll tell you, Paul Stone, I am hoping that this whole concept of, gold and silver and platinum and palladium, I'm hoping that people become more comfortable with those, because I think America has lost faith in so much. And this election was such an inflection point in terms of the rejection of this stuff that they've been selling us, and a rejection of a belief that, wars have to go on forever, and that, we just, that food has to be high, and that, you shouldn't be able to afford food for your family, and that 70% of the country thinks we're going in the wrong direction. I mean, we were all so fed up. I can't imagine, Paul Stone, that things like gold and silver won't be looked to as part of a regrowth, as part of an independence on the part of individuals who say, you know what, I'm not going to rely on the government anymore. I'm going to rely on the fact that gold and silver and precious metals kind of have their own game going on, having nothing to do with the weak-kneed individuals, as you call them, in the government and all of the nonsense that's going on around it. It's kind of it's not isolated, but it's an independent kind of, I'm strong enough to be on my own, and you're not going to impact my pocketbook.
Right, except for that financial oxygen is something we all share.
Yeah,
and,
the dollar.
And as the quality of that oxygen continues to deteriorate, then it can't support the financial life you're used to. If your resources are in the dollar and the dollar perishes, then so does everything you think you're worth.
Yep.
$1 million home today in a 3-penny dollar is really
worth
just a $30,000 house if they didn't print any money.
Yep.
That's
that is
what I
so
call the
amazing.
inflation game.
And it is a game that they've been playing on us for a long time. Anyway,
time.
Paul Stein, you know what? I want to thank you for coming on and helping us out, helping me out, trying to figure out what is, what is happening in terms of the economy. And I think that now with a new president who's got some sense of what's hurting and what the American people are suffering from, hopefully we'll be able, with him and with this idea of investing in gold and silver, we might be able to have more independence, because Americans don't want to go through what they've gone through for the last 4 or 5 years. They just don't want it anymore. It's not fair to us. We work too hard. We fight too many wars. You know, the average man and woman in this country just wants some security. And sometimes the government just isn't there for us. And I think, honestly, I really believe Golden Medal is something that we can take a little, solace in the fact that we've got some security there that they can't impact.
Right. Make America Great Again is one hell of a slogan, but it needs troops. You and I and everyone listening, every heartbeat in this country is a troop needing to support that for ourselves. How do we live where our feet are? Always pay attention to what our feet are doing. Where are we? Let's be conscious of where we are and make America great again, where we stand, do our own effort. Part of that is cutting free from any theoretical or actual dependence that the government's going to deliver, restoring the pursuit of happiness in this country. One man can't run down to the beach and stop a wave. 1 million men can't. Look at what you control and what you can change. If you're a brighter bulb, creating your own joy because you've cut dependence on hoping things turn around, you've made them turn around, you've secured your finances, then you're a brighter bulb in the town around you. That's attraction, and that's going to cause others to follow you. Trump can lead from Washington. We need every person in this country to lead in the town and the home they live in so others can see them overcoming fear, having courage, and going for it in this great country that took a lot of sacrifices to even have the playing field to create such a sport called democracy.
Yep. Well said, Paul Stone, President, CEO of Colonial Metals. It was a delight talking to you, Paul. I very much appreciate your time and your explaining a very important issue, I believe, that Americans need to hear about. And I believe that there's going to be a great future, even greater for Golden Medal, and for me as well in terms of that, because I'm sold.
You can find us at freegoldguide.com/Piro. That's with 2 R's, Pirro. And Judge, Colonial Metals Group loves you. I love you. And we certainly love everyone who listens to you, because that means we're all family.
Oh, you know what? We all believe in the same things. And hoorah is right. An America that takes care of Americans first. And it's enough that we're coming back now with a president who loves America, who loves the people. We're all tired of being hated and despised. Exactly. Anyway, we love you back, Paul Stone. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Judge.
Take care.
You too.
And never forget, that's a promise we made on 9/11. Honor it by donating $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org. That's T2T.org. And up next here on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, I will gavel out with my closing argument. It's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.